Well, we are still a little bit under the magic arbitrary number of 30 people in the meeting, but why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm confident we're going to get over 30 if I talk long enough. There we go. So, Rosemary, would you like to get us started this morning?
Thank you, Rob. Is my voice coming through fine?
It is.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to second everyone's statement about our gathering last night. It was really wonderful to see people in person after so long of not being able to do that. And I hope we'll be able to have more of you come who were not able to attend that when we do these on the first Thursdays of the month, where they'll be posted where they'll be, but generally we've met at the 7 Cs, and this may be a shift, but we'll do it whatever way we come up with doing it. So thank you all for coming. At a coalition meeting the end of May, I spoke about the horrific gun violence in Buffalo and Uvalde. And I didn't want to talk about violence again here in this space where we gather each week to listen and to challenge ourselves and our public representatives to take strong action to end homelessness. But violence descends, fed by multiple failures at all levels, on our block where I live, up the hill on 19th Street in Tacoma, and in all of Pierce County. Violence erupts, powerfully revealing a failure of imagination that we could actually belong in a family, in a neighborhood, in a community, that we could prosper together, and that we could resolve our differences with respect. And violence kills quickly with guns, more slowly with disrespect, disregard, and hate. Last night, I witnessed a community coming together in grief and anger, and with a deep call to act, to strengthen the bonds and accountability within families, to prevent the violence that took the life of 14-year-old Ayanna Usuri on Wednesday on the hilltop in Tacoma. We were urged to act together in multiple ways to insist on public accountability for ending violence. And I so much appreciated Gerald Daniels' passionate call to all present to join with others to demand a better response to violence and to keep on doing the work we are committed to doing. This work of building strong communities, of strong families, of ensuring there is safe and attainable housing, of developing community structures that support all of us in our efforts to live and thrive. This requires a constant act of faith in the possibility of that beloved community so often invoked when our imaginations fail and our hearts are heavy. I ask us to begin today with a moment of silence to honor the life of Ayanna and to reflect on our own commitment to act here in our community in this time. Thank you all for that, and thank you for the work you do each day to build these strong communities. So moving to our meeting today, our community gathered here in this space. Just want to remind folks or let people know who are new of how we manage our space together. And Rob usually puts up the Zoom norms and other norms we have. So thank you, Rob. And we ask people to keep themselves muted when they're not talking. We ask people to use the raised hand feature on the Zoom when you want to be recognized. And we ask people to limit distractions by turning off your video if you're doing other things while you're listening to us. We also use the chat for more than just asking questions. We use it as a place for networking. So feel free to have conversations with people there. It's not a matter of disrespect. It's a way to increase the opportunities when we aren't meeting in person to actually share and ask questions that we might want to ask. As regarding community norms, it's important to recognize that there are often more than 30 people in our group. And so we have limited time for questions. So if you find yourself speaking often, step back If you find yourself with a question that could be answered by someone without a conversation, put it in the chat. If you haven't said something, but you've been really wishing you could, this is an invitation to make your voice heard. We will prosper more when we hear the more diversity of voices that we hear. So I think with that, we'll see there's some new faces here that I don't recognize. So one thing we do kind of ritually each week is we ask new people to just announce that they're here and indicate if they're with an organization. And then if you want to leave your contact information in the chat, if you'd prefer to do that, that's fine. And others then could contact you, or you could ask them to contact you if you'd like. So for anyone who's new, if you want to raise your hand, use that little feature there. Just let us know your name and if you represent a group or an action or project. Don't see any hands. That doesn't mean there are any new people, but I don't see folks who may be new, and it may just be that I haven't seen your face in the little square for a while. Yes, go ahead, Anna.
Good morning. My name is Anna Baker and I'm with Inside Passages. I attended last Friday's meeting, but today is my second meeting. So thank you for welcoming me, and prayers be with our girl.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Anna, for being here. Robin, and then Dora.
Hi, I'm Robin Hans, work with the Maternal Child Tacoma Pierce County Health Department. And my colleague and I are going to be doing a presentation today, but way back when I was part of this group, it's been a while since I have attended. So thanks for the invite. And I look forward to doing our short little presentation in a little bit.
Thank you so much for being here, Robin, and welcome back. Dora. Dora, you disappeared. Oh, there you are.
Yeah,
there you are.
Here. Yeah, my camera on this laptop, it ain't good. So sorry, you guys can't see my. Yes, it does always. I'm from Seymour Community Health Care Center. I haven't been on here in a while. I am a homeless case manager, but also I'm getting ready to transition to Seattle. And hopefully, even though I'm going to a Swedish, hopefully I can connect with some people in Seattle as far as their homeless issues. But I have another person who I now have been associated with. He's in my office. He works with Boulder, and I wanted him to just give an introduction so you guys can get familiar with him. It's a new agency that just came out, and they are doing wondrous work. Go ahead.
Well, that's great, and you should talk with Teresa. Send Teresa a message about that, or she could send you one. So it might be something we could have as a presentation. Thank you, Dora.
Welcome.
Is that person here today to introduce themselves, or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Yes, my name is Ronnie Brown. I'm no stranger to this area. I've been here for over 40 years. I'm a veteran, and I've also been on my recovery journey for over 20 years. And as Dora mentioned, I am one of the ground troops here for my company called Boulder Care. We're a telemedicine company. We engage with folks that struggle with opioid use, alcohol use, and other disorders through our telemedicine, and we also meet with our patients virtually.
So that sounds really great that we could have you as a speaker perhaps in the future.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
So Teresa Power-Drudas, if you can see her in the participants list, is a person that you could, and she's waving her hand to, you might make contact, and Dora can help facilitate that if possible too.
Or you can just put your email in the chat and I'll get in touch with you.
Thank you, Teresa. And thank you for being here, Rob. Anybody else that wants to say hello? Well, I'll say hello to you, and you'll get a chance if you're new to have some conversation a little later. We do breakout group where we do a little more networking and can introduce ourselves to new people. So Rob, it's back to you.
Thank you, Rosemary, and thank you for centering our thoughts this morning. It's been a rough week. So let's start with the segment we do every week, which is discussion of what's happening on the streets this week. The point of this is to try to discern any changes that you're seeing if you're doing outreach, and identify needs so that we got 54 people in this room. If there are needs that this group can help fulfill, this would be an opportunity to state those needs. So I open the floor and I see the first hand that I see up is Jeffrey. That's a shock, Jeffrey.
Oh, surprise, surprise. Good morning, everyone. Just noticed a tent this morning on a drive through downtown. 8th and I, a new tent, a tent. And then what I'm starting to see as I drive around are individual tents just tucked in different places. No communities building out of that. I see new RVs popping up in various neighborhoods also. And so all I can hope is that the city does something about the RV parking situation. But it's going to be a little more difficult. I think all the sweeps that have been going on has really scattered everybody. They're down to solo tents tucked in here and there. So keep an eye out for them. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeffrey. And anyone else with observations of what they're seeing on the streets this week? I do know, I'll just add that I'm keeping track of our weather forecast as we look out in the coming days. There is a possibility of relatively high temperatures at 85 or above next Tuesday. So that if I'll just remind everyone is kind of the trigger for our volunteer efforts to get water out to people. If it's 85 as the temperature, if you're out on the pavement, it's considerably warmer than that. So just know that that's something we're keeping an eye on for next week. The good news is it looks like just one day of warm temperatures and not the start of a real hot streak. Richard, your hand's up.
I just wanted to comment that what we're seeing is consistent with what Jeffrey just spoke of, which are more and more individual tents and structures in surprisingly tucked away places around the town. We have found several people that we had lost track of after multiple sweeps. One individual, she had been swept from Evergreen to L&M and back to Evergreen and swept again. So in this last year, she's been swept 4 or 5 times. And these sweeps are their own form of violence that is causing trauma to the people that are being moved around and shuffled around. So I guess we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, but there are hundreds of people that have been displaced in this last year, and they are scattered everywhere. So that's what we're keeping an eye on. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Anyone else with observations? Anna, I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, I'm visually raising my hand because I don't know if I have the option to raise my hand with one of the things to click on, but thank you very much, Rob. One thing that I'm noticing, and I've seen this several times before when I've been in the area, I don't know if it's the Union exit over by Sprague, but do you guys know where that Hobby Lobby is and the Target and that little Caesar's Pizza? Across the street is the Walmart and Starbucks, but there's a group of guys that work together, I think, with their signs and, wanting money. And I go there periodically on the way home, maybe the Target, maybe the Little Caesars Pizza. But one of the gentlemen is actually, this time around, I was seeing him and he's got a bottle of Fireball. And he's actually getting up, you know, off the ground and he's approaching cars. And it seems like it's just a little bit dangerous because he's talking to himself and he's, you know, kind of aggressive. So that if there's anybody approaching, they might want to be especially careful. But they're on the perimeters of the parking lot when you're leaving the Target parking lot, getting onto any of the roads to get onto the freeway on 16. And so they're not in the traffic, but they're on the perimeter of the parking lots. So just be careful with this group. They do work together. I see them, you know, hanging out together, enjoying a Little Caesars pizza. So at least they got good taste.
Thanks, Anna. And that might be a group where our colleagues at Comprehensive Life Resources, they may already be in touch with them, but that might be a group where CLR may be able to make contact and see what the needs are there, and others as well, of course. Jan, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. There's something new that I'm noticing. Verna, Lily, and I go out with an MRC team and some, which includes some community health workers and some others. I think we're noticing for the first time a rise of fear and anxiety among outreach team workers. And I appreciate Anna Baker's comments. I mean, she's sensing that there should be caution with the particular site. And I'm wondering if this is something else that we should address as a coalition. Is there a sense among outreach workers of folks who go out into the streets with their increasing populations and with the sweeps and with the density changing and the conditions, is there a sense of danger to those who are in the streets doing the work of outreach?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jan. Teresa, your hand's up as well.
Just in response to Jan, we've noticed here on our block a lot more of the people who are campers carrying something to defend themselves with, which is a really good indicator that people have more fear. You're seeing pipes, sometimes even knives, and there was one person with a shotgun who actually, I don't know what the outcome of all this was, but pointed it at one of our neighbors. So, I mean, the outcome was the person wasn't shot. I should say that. I didn't say that well. But I don't know if anything happened to that person who did that, and I don't know what their situation was, but we have seen a real rise in just the presence of weapons.
Yeah, thank you for that, Teresa. And I really appreciate what you said in the chat there, Verna. Folks just want to be seen as a human being. And if they're approached that way, that's a much better way to go. Jeffrey, you had something to add, and then Patricia.
Yeah, I'd just like to add a little something to this. I go into 3 camps, 1 sanctioned, 2 unsanctioned. And I always go in with a heightened alert because you don't know who may have moved in there the night before. It's always a good idea to go in pairs.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, be ready to back out and get to your car. You just don't know. And you know, even though I'm well received in the camps I go into, I am always watching my back, and it's something we have to do. We have to protect ourselves. One of the things, I was in the Coast Guard, and in the Coast Guard, the one thing that they always taught us was don't be a victim. You can be a rescuer, but don't do anything silly or stupid that's going to make you a victim too.
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. And Patricia?
Sort of with Jeffrey's comment, I think it's best to go in threes, actually, so somebody can watch your back. That's just my personal opinion, and being sort of in population or around the sites and stuff like that, I will honestly say it's gotten a heck of a lot crazier and more violent. And these things kind of turn on a dime. Somebody might be standing online and then all of a sudden just start throwing or doing things, or, I mean, I'm just saying that from a perspective that I think it's a little nuts. And I'm not exactly sure what it is, or is it certain type of drugs that are causing these sort of violent tendencies? I'm not sure, but I think it's a lot more violent than it was even 6 months ago and 6 months before that. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for that perspective, Patricia. And Dora, your hand's up as well.
Yeah, this is Ronnie. I just like to add,
Ronnie.
yes, hi. I have had experience with the Tacoma Rescue Mission down in South Tacoma, and I actually take that route when I go into town. I used to work at the mission. And one of the things I'm observing is to the right, as you're coming down the hill, that encampment is built up tremendously. There's a lot more paraphernalia all over the roads. And so I talked with some of the management down there, because we still connect and do things. And they said, Ronnie, they're well organized. They pretty much have a swap meet going on. So the concern is when that many people build up, you get much more mattresses, all kinds of different items building up, and they're actually selling this. So they're bringing in more traffic. That's a major concern, because you have all kinds of health problems. But I think what happens, the city eventually shuts it down once the population expands too much. And of course, you have a lot of traffic that comes down that street. So I just want that.
Yeah, thank you, Ronnie. And I think we probably should close out this portion of the meeting. I really appreciate the conversation. I will add that the consolidation of people into a few large sites, like you see along South Tacoma Way, is a direct result of the sweeps that have been being done across the city. So that's one of the challenges we face. And it's the same thing that Teresa has addressed regarding the G Street community. When folks see an area where a site has been allowed to build up for a period of time, there's a kind of a de facto, okay, this is an okay space to be. And I think you're right, as you get a critical mass of people in a site, it takes real work from the individuals there to make it safe, if it's not somehow a sanctioned, managed site. So appreciate everyone's perspective and reminders about safety as we go out and reach out to those who are currently homeless. So let's move to our community spotlight. And I saw Rachel Aarons on the screen a moment ago. Rachel, do you want to talk about My Sister's Pantry?
Yes, thank you for having me. I have been working as the interim executive director for My Sister's Pantry. And we had a director that retired after 22 years. And My Sister's Pantry is located at 621 Tacoma Avenue South, which is, right down from the courthouse. This building is First United Methodist Church, and also Tacoma Pro Bono is in this building as well. Food Pantry is in the back of the building, and we offer 3 times a month food distribution, clothing distribution, and we're open for about 3 hours. And then so people can come and get lots of food. We're supplied by Northwest Harvest and Emergency Food Network. And also we've been given a lot of money from Grocery Outlet. So we're able to supply with whatever we don't get from our distributors. We're able to get juice, cereal, chili, just all kinds of stuff so that people go away with a well-rounded supply of food. I've been noticing since I've been filling in is that we tend to get people that live in the neighborhood that are, you know, mid to middle aged. I'd like to see more families coming, and we can talk. I can show you our schedule, and then hopefully you can post it at your organization, or, you know, just be able to refer people. Who is eligible? Anybody can come. They do not have to bring an ID or any documentation. We simply ask how many people are in their family. Let's see. You don't need any referrals. If people come and it's not during an actual pantry day, I also work, my main job is the church administrator. So if someone's knocking at the door asking for food or for clothing, I'm going to, you know, take them down and get them set up with whatever they need. Although it would be good if they come during an actual date. Let's see. The best way to contact me, well, I think we'll put it in the chat, but Rachel at My Sister's Pantry is the best email address, and I'll put that in. They are doing hiring actually today to find a new director, and I know that the hope is to be open more because 3 times a month really isn't a whole lot. And yeah, we do have a large encampment, or not really large, probably small to medium, that's right across the street from the church. And right now we are getting a lot of people, unhoused individuals, and we do all the time. And my favorite thing is we're trying to be very sensitive at the pantry to different disabilities, just any type of thing that's going on for people, just to welcome them as they are, and just to help them feel as comfortable as possible is our goal. Yeah, and we probably get about 60 to 90 families that come in each time. And we have about 15 volunteers approximately. I'd like to see the volunteers kind of changed out so that I do get a lot of people that say, can we volunteer? And we've been a little bit stagnant and not changing out the volunteers, and I think that's going to change. Yeah. And food, we were serving a meal with the when they did come, but with COVID that changed, and we didn't get very creative with doing a takeout meal kind of thing, which if we move towards that, that'll be the first thing we do. Because even if you have a home, getting a meal that's already cooked is awesome. Yeah. Is there any questions?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, Rachel. And I just I don't know if you can see the chat, but there's lots of positive comments about the work you're doing in the chat. So lots of thanks there. Anybody with questions for Rachel? All right, I'm not seeing any right now. Oh, there's Teresa.
I was following the rule about not talking if I'd already talked, but I wanted to have this question answered. So, Rachel, you talked about families. Do you get a lot of children?
Right now that is very low, and we do have diapers. So I would like to see people with more children. My sister's pantry does supply like mobile food banks at 4 different two elementary schools and 2 high schools. So we are getting kids that way.
Oh, very cool. So also, I guess, are there ways that any of us could help? Are there things that you need?
Posting the schedule is the best so that people really see it, because not everybody has the ability to go online and look at a schedule.
All right.
Just post in the paper.
Thanks.
Great. And Jay, you have your hand up as well.
There was a couple of questions. One from me. Could you put the link for the job posting in the chat? And then there was another one in the chat. Could you put the address and how folks could reach you, or could you state that again one more time for people so they could write it down?
Yes, I'll put it in the chat. And the job posting, they're on second interviews now. So okay. I wish I would have got that to you sooner.
Oh no, that's awesome. Congratulations. I hope you find a perfect fit. Like, that's really good. I just really support you guys. You guys have been in my life the majority of my children's lives. We used to come down and have hot meals with you guys. And it was just, you guys have been incredible for the community before COVID for years and years and years.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here and for all that you do, Rachel. And let's move on to our next item on the agenda, which is a short presentation from the Maternal Child Outreach Team. Let me work on giving Sharon the ability to share some slides here. So just bear with me for a moment. All right, Sharon, you should be able to do that now.
Hi, Rob. Thank you. Let me put that up. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Sharon Scarpet. I am part of the Maternal Child Outreach Team at the Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department, and I'm here with my colleague, Robin.
And I introduced myself at the beginning, or as someone coming back to this group. And so I'm also part of the Maternal Child Outreach Team at the Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department.
Thank you, Robin. Okay, so the agenda for today, it'll be quick. We'll talk about the mission, the services that we provide to the clients, the coordination, and also how to refer to us. So the Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department's mission is to have healthy people and healthy communities. So we'll be talking more about what we do in our position to help with this.
And so some of the services we offer our job is to make sure that pregnant women are connected to resources. That includes helping them sign up for Apple Health insurance. If they need a doctor, we can help them find a doctor, breastfeeding support, resources to quit smoking, making sure that there's connected with WIC. And with WIC, I know with some women that are homeless, we can get WIC to break down the foods in smaller quantities so that when there's no refrigeration or available, they can just get smaller quantities of like their milk. And so that's one of the things we can help with. And then we let them know about what's provided by their provider one Medicaid insurance, like childbirth education, referral to nutrition counselor, And then we spend time talking about infant safe sleep education. I know we have a program where we provide free cribs. They're the pack and play cribs to women that we can get them to them when they're closer to, I think, 20, till delivery. So about 38 weeks is when we would get them to the crib. It's if they have no safe place for the baby to sleep. So babies, we are recommended to sleep in their own bed and not in the bed with the parent. And so we know with the homeless populations that might be moving around and couch surfing, the pack and play cribs are great because they're small enough that they can go fit into the room with mama. And so those are available to women, and we can arrange getting the crib to the mom. Again, if there's no other option to get a crib, we want to make sure that babies have a safe place to sleep. We also connect women with a program called Maternity Support Services. There's 5 different agencies that provide that service. There's CMAR, step-by-step answers, community healthcare, and then the health department does on a limited basis. And then we can connect with other resources, if clients are in need of other support or resources. Sharon and I are both available through phone. They can call us anytime or text. We unfortunately aren't out doing outreach. So we're pretty much in our office space. However, we are very available by phone or text and then we just want to make sure that mamas get connected. We also have a health program. That's one of the programs that's unique to Pierce County, in that we know that our Black mamas have higher rates of preterm birth, low birth weight babies, and higher rates of infant mortality. So we have a group that where we can get them connected with a health minister, that they offer a parenting, I'm not a parenting group, but Sharon, help me out. What am I trying to say?
They get connected to a health minister to help them navigate through the health system, get them connected to any resources, have someone with the same cultural background that understands them and is there to provide extra support.
Thanks. And all of these services are free and voluntary. And so we're there just to help meet clients where they're at. We do provide some limited case management, and we check back in to make sure that moms get connected to the groups, to the resources that we refer them to, or like if we refer them to a doctor, we want to make sure that they've got, we're able to make an appointment, and if not, advocate and get them an appointment. I know sometimes it's hard to, with like transportation, we can help get them linked to paratransit for transportation to their medical appointments, and things like that. Sharon, am I missing anything?
Yeah, and when we talk to clients, if they're already signed up for Medicaid, each plan is different. So there are some plans that will provide gift cards that they can use for Uber or Lyft, or a gas gift card. They can also get a free phone, breast pumps, gift cards for going to their appointments or taking babies to appointments. And those gift cards can be used for different things like diapers or whatever they need.
Yes, thank you for sharing that.
Did you mention nurse family partnership, Robin?
I'm sorry, I didn't. Thanks for reminding. So we have a program department for first-time moms. It's called the Nurse Family Partnership. We have to get the referral prior to the 26th week of pregnancy so that our nurses have time to connect with the moms. But it is an awesome program where they get connected with a public health nurse who follows them and meets with them frequently, well, you in the beginning, weekly. And again, it's set up, I think right now our nurses are doing it over the phone. However, some may be meeting in person, but they meet weekly for the first month. And then after that, it's every other week. But the awesome thing is that our nurses continue to meet with the mom and up until the baby turns 2 years old. So they're there to, and they develop the relationship and are able to just really provide mom with support, education, encouragement, and connection to resources. So it's a really awesome program. And towards the end, we will be sharing how you can reach out or make a referral and also our phone numbers.
Thank you, Robin. So when we receive a referral, what we do is we will contact the client and let them know about all these services that we talked about. And if they are interested in maternal support services or nurse family partnership or Black Infant Health, we're able to get them connected. And as Robin mentioned, we will follow up with the refer, let them know if we were able to get in touch with the client. If we weren't, then we try to ask if there is another way to contact the client, if it's maybe an email address or another phone number. And we will also follow up with the client. They can follow up with us if they have any questions about any resources or need a little bit more extra help. We provide limited case management with the clients. And to refer to us, so for nurse family partnership, it's important to refer clients before the 26 weeks of pregnancy. That way they're able to enroll early and go through the program. If they're already farther along, then they can connect to maternal support services. And our efforts are focused on specific geographic regions, which is Hilltop, North Tacoma, South Tacoma, and Parkland, but we do not turn anyone away. We've worked with clients from other counties as well, or if a client perhaps is living in King County and will be moving to Pierce County, then we also work with them. And we do not use any MSS units. And there's different ways to refer the client. There is an online referral form that the client can fill out or the refer can fill out, and it will go through the system and then get to us. Or they can reach out directly to Robin or myself. They can text us or call us or send us an email. And so the information is below. The referral form can also be faxed if that works best for the organization. And we will contact the client between 24 and 48 hours after receiving the referral.
And I'm quickly, and then so one of the questions from Joanne Iverson was, do you want to know of pregnancies within the encampments? We're running into a few as we visit encampments. Yes, I mean, you can, of course, with the client's permission, if you can share our phone number, or if, I know it gets really tricky of how we can reach out. I know some of your when you run into some of your folks, they may have cell phones. We just have to have a way to be able to contact the client, or you can again provide our phone number, and if they, so that maybe they could use someone's phone and reach out to us. And I think, and then some other questions were about parenting classes. Our family support partnership has some great parenting classes. I can drop that information in the chat. and some of those are, I think some are meeting in person. There's others that they're doing them through Zoom or online. And then also there's groups for new pregnant and then new parents for support. And I can share that information in the chat as well.
So thank you. And if folks have additional questions, I think it'd be great to post those in the chat. Robin and Sharon, will you have a moment to hang around and answer those if folks can do that?
Of course.
Perfect. Perfect. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's valuable information, and appreciate knowing about this resource in the community.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
So, Garrett, would you like to talk? So we have, as you will recall, if you've been here over the last few weeks, we've done a few presentations building the knowledge in the group about coordinated entry. And Garrett thought it would be a good idea to spend a few minutes talking about what coordinated entry can and cannot do. So I hand this over to you, Garrett.
Thank you, Rob. I'm going to start off with a poll. This is going to be a fun poll. I'm super excited. I'm going to launch that right now. I want you to tell me, it's multiple choice. You can pick as many as you want, right? How you feeling about coordinated entry? I think coordinated entry is confusing. I think it's disappointing. I think it's a place I refer people to. I think it's effective. It's completely new to me. It's a great resource. It's not worth the effort. I will just say that those are all things I have heard over time about coordinated entry.
We need poll music.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was getting some kids' toys out last night for the party, and like my kid's recorder fell out of the bin, and I was like vaguely traumatized by listening to my child stress out about effectively doing Twinkle Twinkle on the recorder. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys 10 more seconds. All right, you don't need 10 more seconds. So it looks like about a third of you find it confusing. About a quarter, it's disappointing. Nearly half is a place you guys refer folks to, and then some other things, a good resource, effective. Yeah, all those things. I think it's all those things too. And I'm gonna stop sharing on that. And I have a little presentation, and we're just gonna kind of go through it fast because I know we're behind already. And let's see, do I have to close that? What am I doing here? There we go. And I've titled my presentation, "We Are Hurting Coordinated Entry Feelings." I think it's misunderstood in the community. So coordinated entry is a product of it's nationally required for some of our funding. But more than that, it's a solution to some problems. Before coordinated entry, you had to go to every provider to find out if they had an opening in their program, right? That is not very fun. And so by consolidating it all into one place, okay, so we have one front door to the homeless system. You just come to that one place. What a great thing, right? You don't have to knock on all these doors, right? So it's better for our clients because they only have to go one place, better for our staff because they're not getting 15 telephone calls every day, or 50 telephone calls every day looking for resources. And the other thing that it's designed for is to prioritize scarce goods. So coordinated entry really was designed as a way to get folks into our more expensive, our scarce programs, so rapid rehousing, transitional housing, and permanent supportive housing, right? So really, those are the programs that coordinated entry is designed around. And so built into coordinated entry is a prioritization system, right? So we all kind of know that, right? But really it's a tool to make sure that our scarce goods go to the people that would have the most difficulty getting housing without them. So our highest barrier and our most vulnerable, right? So that's our goal with it, right? Does it work perfectly? Good heavens, yes and no, right? It's challenging to get to, right? We have lots of different ways to get to coordinated entry now, right? You can call up, you can go visit, and those are all things that have changed over time. So that's one of the things that I want you to think about in this 5-minute presentation is coordinated entry can change, right? We have made changes to it over time, and we will continue to make changes. And we make changes when we think, and by we, I mean the community. There's a coordinated entry improvement meeting every month, and they talk about improving things, and based on feedback, they work on improving it. So just kind of think in mind, like the things that are kind of a bummer, right? If they're not fixable, that's challenging, right? Like getting more resources, right? But yeah, so again, the goal is to prioritize scarce goods. That means a lot of people that touch coordinated entry aren't going to get the goods, right? And that's a super frustrating part. And there's a bonus to coordinated entry in Pierce County. So nationwide, that's how coordinated entry works everywhere. Determine eligibility, do an assessment, prioritize them, refer to programs, right? So everybody gets the first 3, right? Only a few people get the last one because they don't have enough resources, right? So it can feel very frustrating to send someone to coordinated entry and they don't get anything out of it. Pierce County, we have a bonus, and that is they get immediate access to a single instance of financial assistance if it can help them on a path to permanent housing, right? So that can be move-in cost to an apartment, that can be new propane tanks for an RV, right? It can be a wide variety. It can be helping pay off a debt that they owe, maybe so that they can get back in their union, right? It can be anything that has a clear path to permanent housing, right? So, so our coordinated entry in our community serves 2 groups of people, right? People that are incredibly vulnerable, incredibly high barrier, and folks that have a lot going for them and just need a little assistance, right? And so the middle gets completely left out in terms of resources, right? And that's how coordinated entry is designed, right? Our homeless system shouldn't be designed that way, right? Our homeless system should be designed to do services for everybody, but it's under-resourced. And so that's who misses out, which is the majority of people we refer to coordinated entry. So what coordinated entry doesn't do, and it's not designed to do, is to provide case management, right? And that seems super counterintuitive, right? We think, oh, let's get them connected to coordinated entry and someone's going to help them out of homelessness. No, that is not the purpose of coordinated entry. It's to provide a front door to our deeper interventions. And so we often think it ought to be helping them and it doesn't. So we're introducing funding for the first time from the county to do more case management. You can thank Ryan Mello when you see him for that. He's like, you guys keep talking about case management. I need to see it. And so that got included with some ARPA money, right? So that's the critical time intervention. Inside Passages is doing that now for all populations. Not enough for everybody. Probably need like 30 case managers, right? And we do it a little bit with our outreach workers, but this is new, right? So that meets some of that need. But again, coordinated entry isn't designed to do that. That doesn't mean coordinated entry couldn't be designed to do that, right? But that would be a much higher expense than what we currently fund coordinated entry to do. Same thing is it doesn't get you more housing interventions other than the diversion thing, right? Where we help with a single financial payment, right? It doesn't increase the amount of resources we have, right? So if we put more money in coordinated entry right now, what do we buy, right? We buy more access to nothing in a way, right? We want to get diversion in front of people, but we get more access, and it doesn't solve homelessness, right? It helps bring people to the programs that solve homelessness, right? But it doesn't in itself do that. And let's see. So this is my big analogy. That's a really busy airport. And this is my analogy is that coordinated entry is the airport, right? And right, the airplanes, right, are our programs. Our airplanes are your pathways to housing, and coordinated entry, right? You need an airport to catch an airplane, right? Really hard to do it on a runway, right? Airports are great, right? You can wait until your plane comes, all of those things. That's coordinated entry. Unfortunately, right, you really need planes. And that's what we're missing in the community, right? We have a quarter of the planes that we need. And so you can bring people to the airport, right? And they're largely disappointed because, right, only 1 in 4, right, 1 in 3 maybe is going to get access to that permanent housing. So to fix coordinated entry, right, we need to get more airplanes. And so that's how we're trying to prioritize our kind of, right. So it's just good to think about it that, right? So you don't complain about coordinated entry, complain about our lack of resources would be my point. But we can also complain about coordinated entry, right? Right. So in the future, right, what are we trying to do with coordinated entry? Well, we want more ways to access to it, right? It used to be you had to call up a phone line and get an appointment scheduled, and that was hard for a lot of people. We added on demand, right? That was a great initiative we put together. We got phone with 211. Pandemic happened, and all of a sudden everybody realized they could do phone conversations. It's not as amazing as in person, but it's better to do a phone conversation than no conversation. You can fill out a form online to help coordinate scheduling an appointment at Associated Ministries or off the Coalition website, right? We've got cultural hubs, right? We're trying to put these services in places where people are going to be comfortable going, right? Connecting to case management is new, and that's something that some providers do really well is, oh, you need to talk to Inside Passages. Here, we have an Inside Passages person in the building right now. Let's go talk to them and you can get some case management to navigate. My dream is getting enough resources so there isn't a prioritization. So you don't walk out with no resources, you walk out with a permanent housing intervention, right? That's functional zero, right? You ask for help, there's help, right? And the big growth thing that's happening is we're starting to serve people that are housed. And so we do that with youth, we do that with McKinney-Vento families, and we do that through the CHIRP program, the Catholic Community Services runs, right? So we have more and more programs that are serving people that are doubled up, that are staying in a motel, and with the state funding around rental assistance, one of their requirements is probably going to end up being that coordinated entry is going to be used for people seeking rent assistance. And when that happens, right, we're going to have to make sure the system's capable of doing that. But I guess my point is the sucker can change, right? So when we identify problems, we can try to make it change. And there we go. I don't know how much time we have for questions. You all know how to get a hold of me. And places to connect to coordinated entry are on the Coalition website. I'll throw a link in there in a minute. Although just saying that, Rob's like, I'm going to get the link in before you. I can just see that in his eyes. So anything in the chat I need to know about?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions for Garrett, this would be the opportunity.
There's something from Richard about, I hear there are intrusive questions. Oh, yes, there are. And the value of that is an interesting one, right? Do you trade sex for food or housing? That's a pretty intrusive question. And how we say it is much nicer than that, right? But we're getting at some pretty personal things that help us identify vulnerabilities and barriers. And the way we get rid of those questions is having enough resources that we don't have to prioritize to the most vulnerable, but we can give resources to everybody. Or we look at prioritizing differently. And yeah, there's questions about how the prioritization works. We've had outside reviews. I'm not sure that it's worse than anybody else's in the country. I think it's probably one of the better, but it's still not as good as having human involvement, right? I think veterans have a better system. They have more resources. So they use an algorithm, but they also have some case management where they're like, look, this veteran's going to die in 6 months. Let's have them inside, and they're able to do that. Whereas an algorithm might say, no, he's only 375th on the list, right? We're only going to be able to help people through top 100. So those changes, I think, are things people are interested in doing equitably.
So Jan asked a question about, is 211 working okay as a starting point into coordinated entry?
I think it's effective for many people. It's a call and not instant, usually connection to a case manager. So you have to get a call back. And so that's not effective for a lot of people. So I think there's that frustration, is that coordinated entry isn't something every operator can do. They don't work 24/7. So yeah, it works within the limited constraints of the funding that they have to operate it. But I think it's, so again, it works for some people that can keep their phone charged, but if you can't, not a great option.
And Kenneth added another question or statement there you may see in the chat.
There are a lot of places to get coordinated entry. All of our path outreach teams, so Comprehensive Life Resources, Greater Lakes Mental Health. I would imagine at some point or other funded outreach teams will have coordinated entry staff. There's coordinated entry staff embedded in most of our shelters, Associated Ministries, Catholic Community Services. I believe Inside Passage is doing coordinated entry now. So the goal is to have it in lots of places. The CHIRP program that Catholic Community Services run, Dana Peterson, connect up with her, right? If your group wants to learn to do coordinated entry, there's a way to do it without a funding stream from the county. If you can allocate staff time, they can learn to do that so that the access is less of a barrier. But it's still a barrier, and things we need to work on. How do we get more hours? How do we get more drop in? How do we get more immediate access, right? That's the goal, right? Immediate, right? You ask, we help.
Garrett, I see Patricia's hand up.
I was just going to comment, kind of Garrett sort of stated it a little bit, like you stay on hold a long time on 211. And then the connections there it's a little difficult to go through if you're like lived experience to 211. And then when you get on the coordinated entry, you never know where you're at. But that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, you're depending on the agency you work with, they can tell you where you sit. And that's one of our goals, was that people need to know where they are in the list. Because if you're near the bottom of the list, you're not going to get anything from coordinated entry unless you're a unicorn in some way, like that fits a program that has trouble filling the slots. And so people need to know that, because you need to know you're on your own. Like if you don't get anything in a month, chances are you're not getting anything from the system, because there's a constant flow of people coming in, right? And if you weren't vulnerable, high barrier enough when you came in, then chances are, right? And that's the sad reality of an under-resourced system. And, you know, my job is to get more resources in. So, you know, it's all of our job in a way, but no, it's not all of our job. It's a small group of people's job to get more resources in, and it's all of your job to implement them in ethical, humane, strength-based ways. So
I am seeing a few more questions in the chat. In the interest of moving the meeting along, Garrett, if you could kind of peruse those and maybe answer a couple in the chat. I think what I would like to do, I'm going to have to call a little bit of an audible on our agenda. And we are going to come back and do a breakout session around, well, it's loosely related to coordinated entry, that Garrett will queue up after we do our government updates. But before we get to the government updates, I would like to do a review of last week's breakout conversation. Timothy, would you be willing to do that? And I can share it on screen.
Yeah, I'm ready to do that.
Perfect.
So last week we talked about what the coalition can accomplish in the last half of this year. I pulled out a quote to emphasize, which just basically talks about how we should prioritize increasing resources and mitigate the suffering, which is what we do in a nutshell, and supporting empowerment. A lot of the things that people said sort of fell into the category of keep on doing what we're doing so well. And that had to do with collaboration, sharing resources, pushing the resources in housing and tracking what's out there, building supports between folks in the coalition, and continuing the communication work to address stereotypes around unhoused people, which I read as an implied shout out to the great work Lori Davenport's been doing. So there's that. And then people talked about things that we're already doing that we have momentum on and we should continue doing. And to pull a few of those things out, you know, the policy for inclement weather response, keep on that, keep pushing it through, make it more uniform, have more influence and impact as a coalition, noting that we've had breakthroughs on safe parking and sanctioned camps this year, and to keep building on our successes there. Some folks who work in healthcare said that they would like to see more awareness of health issues for folks who are living homeless. And then finally, continuing the work that folks are doing around water, sweeps, just strong confront of advocacy, and continuing the work that we're doing on the emergency distribution network. And then folks talked about things that we should actually focus on more through the end of the year, things that we could emphasize more. Somebody talked about, one group talked about how siloed things continue to be. I know that that's addressed in the comprehensive plan, but again, keeping our eye on that systems level thinking that helps to bring things together and bring us out of our silos. Creating, this is an interesting one, creating more engagement opportunities that are an easy starting point for involvement. How can we bring people in, engage them, keep them engaged, kind of lower the bar for getting involved. More about housing on the agenda for the next 6 months could be educational, and then a specific suggestion about bringing in some guests from the housing development side to talk about that and help us understand that better. Advocacy for a couple of people talked about how, in addition to housing, we should be taking on more on escalating rents, rent control, those issues, because the tsunami is coming. Suggestion around better quality counts than just the point in time in HMIS, and that maybe we should have quarterly or semi-annual counts. And I'm sure that Garrett's excited about coordinating that. I already said rental issues. That was a kind of a repeat of that. I'll close with a great project for somebody to take on, which is to compile a map of people in the neighborhoods that want to share their water spigots with homeless folks. So there we go. That's the summary.
Thank you, Timothy, for pulling that together, and everybody for participating in that. There's some great ideas in there that I'll definitely work on, including like talking more about housing projects in the coming months. Courtney, you have your hand up.
Yes, I don't know if other lived experience members of the coalition feel this way or not. It could just be me, but I keep looking for a reflection of my statements in these notes, and I don't ever see them. And I'm not always able to be the one that drops the group notes in the chat after our breakout meetings. And so if you have a lived experience person in your group, please note what they say very carefully, and maybe even note that that comment came from a lived experience person, because I feel erased in a lot of these feedbacks. And I put my time and thoughts into this very carefully for a reason, and I expect to be noted. So thank you.
if I could just briefly respond, the quality of these roundups really depends everything on the quality of the note-taking that happens in the breakout sessions. I go through everything that has been noted and do rearranging and break it into categories. It's very rare for me to leave something out that's been said. I only do that if it's repetitive, basically. So, you know, this is my call for people who are taking notes for these breakout sessions to be conscientious about your note taking and really try to reflect what's been said and know that people are reading these. And I really second what was just said about, you know, if there's somebody with lived experience in your group to kind of like call that out, that would be helpful.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you for raising that question, Courtney. Sorry to feel that you felt like you've been erased in your comments. So I do think if we're deliberate in making sure that we do include those, that might help remedy the situation. Teresa, your hand's up as well.
I'm sorry that happened. And I want to say that because some of my ideas are kind of fringe, they don't always make it into a note taker's space. And if I care about them a lot, I put them into the chat myself. And I noticed that Timothy does check the whole chat. So if I put my room number and I say, in addition, this thing, that can get into. So I recommend that you read the notes. Everybody should be reading the notes of the person who took them. That's not an easy thing to do. I'm sure when I take notes, I don't get everything either. So read what they put. If your idea isn't in there and it's, you know, put it in there in the chat because we do want to hear from you.
All right. So, so in order to get back on track with our agenda, I am going to shift to our government updates, and then we will come back after this to do our next breakout conversation. And again, I really appreciate the feedback, Courtney, from your perspective. So I do know that Caleb from the city of Tacoma is unable to attend today. So what I will say is he did provide some brief notes to me. I will put those in the chat momentarily. But there was no update in terms of sweeps or announcements of upcoming sweeps from the city of Tacoma at this time. Let's shift over to Pierce County Human Services. Jeff, do you have anything to share?
Yes, I have one thing to share real quickly. We have released the inclement weather shelter and supplies NOFA. It's open currently. You can access that NOFA and application materials by going to our Pierce County Human Services website under the solicitations and competitive bids link. Applications are due July 22nd. There is an application workshop that will be this Monday. July 11th is Monday at 9 a.m. And there's also a link to that workshop at that website as well. So those dollars are available. Applications due July 22nd for those funds. If you're interested, if you're an outreach agency, a shelter agency, or anyone in the community that has the capacity to implement this program, we would strongly encourage you to consider it and submit an application. The application questions are very short, very limited. They're not the standard types of questions we ask that require 20 pages of you to fill out an application. So it shouldn't take you too much to do the specific application. The attachments are a separate thing that are required, but the application itself is really short and easy to complete.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff? Jan.
Yes, Jeff, I really appreciate that you host. They were weekly meetings. One is for shelter managers and the other weekly meeting was for street outreach workers. And I'm just wondering, during inclement weather, in anticipation of inclement weather, and Rob Huff is very good about posting weather notices, if we can co-op the street outreach worker meeting to talk about logistics. So I know they were started because of COVID, and the inclement weather is another public health concern. So would that be something that you would accommodate, that we shift the emphasis to talk about the weather when the weather gets bad?
Yeah, how do I say this? We go by weather forecasts that come from the National Weather Service, passed along to us through our Pierce County Department of Emergency Management. So a few days before there may be inclement weather or whatever, severe weather forecasts, or low temperatures, high temperatures, or whatever, we're notified through our DEM, who monitor that NWS, Northwest Weather Service, Northwest Weather Service, yeah. So if we have inclement weather, severe weather, our intent would be to notify people of that in advance and determine if we need to have meetings or not. And during inclement or severe weather crisis, that we would meet daily, depending on the number of days that those events are occurring. So that is part of the process. As you know, those policies and procedures are currently under review and being finalized. And so once they're done, which should be soon, we will move into that mode and have expectations for all of our providers to participate in those daily calls to address the needs and make sure that we're doing the work appropriately.
Just a follow-up question, Jeff. What we've experienced so far this summer is that the volunteer system of responding to severe heat works, and we activated ourselves as volunteers. It's really handy to have a common channel that we can all jump on if we're able to. So that's why I'm hoping that after the NOFA is awarded to some agency, that agency takes over. But until then, at least with the volunteer system, prior to DEM saying that it's 3 consecutive days over 90, if just maybe that Tuesday morning or that Tuesday meeting for the street workers might have the weather be the top topic.
Yes, we can talk Tuesday, and we open it up for topics of discussion. So yes, Tuesday's meeting, we can talk about that. The weather we're looking at, from what I've seen, doesn't reach the threshold for concern from our end of it based on the degree that we look at. So, but those Tuesday meetings, definitely there can be discussion, but I don't believe there's a meeting next Tuesday. This group doesn't meet weekly for the outreach. The outreach group meets twice a month. So that unfortunately the next outreach meeting isn't until July 19th, actually. They met earlier this week on Tuesday, so they don't meet next week, they meet the week after. So there's no meeting this Tuesday. But based on weather I've seen, it's close to 85, but the projection hasn't reached 85 yet. Unfortunately.
Thanks for that, Jeff. All right, so let's shift over to Valerie. Do you have updates on rental assistance?
Good morning, or afternoon. I don't know. It's all a blur. So with rental assistance, things are going great. We are currently at $121,940,000 spent in the last few, I don't know, it's been a year and a half. So that's 79.51% of our overall budget. We did just receive an ERAP 2.0 doesn't mean anything to y'all. It's just extra dollars from the state. And so those are contracted to our amazing nonprofits who I just can't give enough public thanks and credit to for all of the work they're doing. As far as the permanent rental assistance program, which I'm very excited about, we are finalizing the notice of funding availability as we speak. So we will release that as soon as it's available, as soon as it's ready. I'll send it out to the coalition so you'll all be informed. What we're looking at is anywhere from 1 to 3 nonprofit providers. It is going to be the first year is just over 7 million. Every year after that will be about 4 million, and it will serve a very specific requirement of under 80% area medium income, past due on rent. There may or may not be a lottery. It will open and close periodically. Like all of that stuff is being worked out, and we will work with a buy-in for agency and a youth and young adult provider. So we will be sending that out as soon as possible. The state just released their policies 2 days ago, so I was waiting for that so we don't issue a notice of funding availability against what the state's requiring. So as soon as that's ready, I'll send it out. It's on my list. As you may have heard, V has left the county. So if you email me, please be patient. I'm a team of 1. So I'm trying, I'm keeping up as we speak, but the day will come where it's just overwhelming. So just know it's a team of 1 at the current moment. And obviously we have leadership who jump in and help, but I'm trying not to pull it on them if I don't have to. So thank you for all your support. And if there's anything we can do, please let me know.
Thanks, Valerie. And we're confident you can do it all yourself. So, so Jenny from the Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department, what do you have to share with us this week?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. COVID, we still have COVID with us. Our data, because of the holiday, is not really reliable. But, you know, I've been hearing from a lot of people, confusion, frustration, just sort of not just, I think what's typical of this time where something sort of becomes endemic in our communities. And we at the health department actually share this sort of confusion of like, how vigilant do we need to be? What, you know, as numbers kind of go up and down, but they seem to be, you know, is it safe? Is it not safe? Do we wear masks? Do we not wear masks? All these things. So just want to be really transparent and humble that this is something we're talking about internally in terms of how do we talk about this as a health department and as a community. I just want to encourage folks that, you know, getting vaccinated, encourage others to get vaccinated. Our vaccines are working. Get tested, stay away from others whenever you can. If you are sick, just sort of using those general, you know, safety parameters or approaches. And we are seeing an uptick in outbreaks at our shelters. So we have a few outbreaks right now at some of the larger sites, which makes sense. Large congregate sites. This is where things spread. We are getting back into shelters with our contractor Discovery Health to do more COVID vaccine work that is shelter-based. So I assure you that we are concerned about that and are working to get vaccines to folks who don't have them yet and want them. I shared last week updates to our isolation and quarantine. I will share detailed information in the weekly email that I send out. Should be out this afternoon by noon. If you aren't getting my weekly email, please let me know. Just ping me in the chat with your email address. I'll add you, but it goes out to the coalition listserv. So hopefully you're all seeing my updates. Monkeypox is a growing concern. Remarkably, there are 9 cases in King County, but there are 0 cases here in Pierce County thus far. We are on alert for that. What you need to know about monkeypox is that it sounds really scary, but it's very rare. The risk to our population remains low. It is not easily spread. You have to have like a brief interaction does not spread it. You need to have very close interaction. The health impacts are not severe, relatively speaking. So it's something that we're concerned about, and we will jump into action when needed. But I think the ask from me to you is to encourage anyone who has concerns, who has a new rash, to contact or be seen by a medical provider. I'll drop our phone number, call center number in the chat. If you are a provider or you know of a suspected case, please let us know right away, and we'll walk you through the steps, and we will get our disease investigators on the case, literally. And we are preparing that if cases come to Pierce County, we'll have response plans in place, including vaccines, and we're working with the state on planning for that if it comes up. Again, I'll send out an email this afternoon with detailed information. I'll include some links from Sharon and Robin from the maternal child outreach team. And that is all from me. Questions, concerns?
Yeah, anybody with questions for Jenny?
Oh, I see one from Joanne. What's the best way to connect homeless encampment residents to you if they develop a rash? Joanne, if you're out with someone, what I would say is I would refer them to one of our local clinics. I believe that Jan and MRC folks, when they were doing outreach, had a list, and we also had a flyer, I think, of clinics, but it's got CMAR and CHC, so the Hilltop locations, or any location really of those clinics. So first and foremost, getting someone connected with a medical provider for evaluation. You can call the number that I'm going to drop in the chat to report a suspected case, but I understand, like, if you're out with someone, that that might not be the way to go. I think getting someone to a medical provider is really the best course of action if you're out in the streets with someone. Any other questions, concerns?
Not seeing any hands at the moment. So if folks have additional questions, maybe you can address them in the chat. Appreciate you being here, Jenny.
Sounds good. Thanks all.
Let's see. And I don't believe we have anybody from the Department of Emergency Management on the call. So let's shift to our breakout conversation. And Garrett, would you like to kind of cue this up? I think what we'll do is a 10-minute conversation today.
Cool. Thanks, Rob. One of the requirements of the Comprehensive Plan to End Homelessness is an annual qualitative assessment of the homeless system. So quantitative means we use our data and look at how we're performing and what our data says. Qualitative means that we go and have conversations with people to talk about what's going well and what's going bad. How we do that is limited by the reality that conversations are time consuming to do and time consuming to code, which is to kind of take the salient parts out and make sense of. So my question to you all is, knowing we can't do everything we want to do, what would be the important thing for us to focus our efforts on learning from doing our qualitative research? So when we go out to have conversations, what should we learn, right? What do we want to try to find out? And that'll drive who we talk to, right? We want to find out why people aren't successful, right? That means that we're going to go and talk to people that, right, have failed to get permanent housing out of a program. If we want to talk to people that are like, why, why aren't people choosing diversion, right? We would go and look and find people that didn't choose diversion and talk about why. So what do you think we should learn? And then, suggestions on how to do it can be included. But really, like, if we're going to go and spend time to have conversations with people, what should be what we want to come out with? And some of them might even be emotional. Like, how do you feel about the homeless system? Did you feel hopeful after you connected with it, or more hopeless, right? And those would be used, right, to make our system more hopeful, right? Like, that would be, if that's our objective of what to learn, it would be with the goal of changing our system to work on what we glean from that. So I feel that's sort of vague and sort of concrete, but I'll leave it there. Is what should we be trying to learn by conversations in a structured annual way?
Great. Thank you for queuing that up, Garrett. So what I'm going to do is send everybody off to rooms. You'll have 5 or 6 folks in each room. Calling special attention again to what Courtney raised. If you do have a person with lived experience in your room, please be sure to take good notes. And if you can, denote that this came from a person with lived experience. And again, the routine is someone please take notes. When we come back to the main room, paste those notes in the chat so that Timothy can do his magic and we can do a summary next week. So we will go do this until 10:40, and I hope everyone has a good conversation. So welcome back, everyone. I know that was a short period of time, shorter than we usually like to do. But wanted to bring us back. We have about 20 minutes left in the meeting, so I want to make sure that we keep things moving. Again, the reminder, hopefully a note taker took good notes in every room. Please post those notes in the chat. And I do know that it was kind of a vague question, so the notes might be interesting and we can challenge Timothy this week again. So thank you for that. And let's shift to the next items in the agenda. I will briefly talk about the advocacy opportunity that I wanted to highlight, but I'm not going to belabor it. I'm actually going to send out an advocacy email to the full email list later today. But what I did want to highlight is that the Tacoma School District has been going through a process to highlight or to seek proposals for development to take place or redevelopment to take place at the Gault property on the east side of Tacoma. And they are hosting a public hearing on the proposal that was submitted by a development group on Thursday evening at 6 p.m. They're also taking public comments via email until the 12th of July. So again, I will send out an email about this, but the advocacy action that we're hoping people can take is that the current proposal does not appear to prioritize affordable housing in any way. And it's consistent with the coalition's stance around housing to promote and encourage any redevelopment of public property to include public housing, specifically for those who are at the 0 to 30% area median income level, which is where we have the largest gap in housing availability, and where also the folks who we specifically work with typically fall in that 0 to 30% AMI area. So I will again send out an email about this, but I just wanted to highlight it during our agenda. And Adam, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I've been following this and commenting on it closely. I just want to add there's an information session on Tuesday at noon that is a Q&A with the school board, I'm not sure, and the developer. So that's also another great opportunity to get more information and have your questions heard. But yes, this current proposal as it stands has no affordability in it at all.
Right, yeah. And kudos to Maureen Howard, who is unable to join us at these meetings, but was raising a red flag about this issue. So again, I will send out an email about this, including the link to the webpage and how to join in that Q&A session on Tuesday, how to submit comments by the end of the day on Tuesday, or how to attend the public hearing and advocate for extremely low-income housing. So I also have on the agenda a update on the Pierce County Comprehensive Plan to End Homelessness. Garrett might be able to drop a link to the page where you can find the notes from last Friday's meeting, but on July 1st, the advisory board for the comp plan did meet for a couple of hours. One of the things that we did that I should let all of you all know about is that we did appoint members of an executive committee that will work with Garrett and human services staff to set the agendas for upcoming meetings, among other things. And that executive committee, the folks in the room appointed me as one of the members of the executive committee with the caveat that if and when Maureen Howard is able to rejoin these meetings, essentially it's a space for the Coalition to End Homelessness on the executive committee. So it would either be Maureen if she's able, or me if she's unable to sit in on that role. So you'll see that information in the notes on the link that Garrett posted. And let's shift very quickly now to Jan Runbeck with an update on Safe Sites for All and the work that's being done there.
Okay, we've got some news to share as far as water being available. We've heard that next Wednesday might be a hot day. It might hit 85. Knowing that EFN, Emergency Food Network, has a lot of Propel water, which is water with electrolytes in it. That's good to give folks to make sure that they don't lose electrolytes, which you do through sweating and all that in hot weather. So a couple days ago, a pallet was delivered to Lehigh Aspen Court on Hosmer. Joe Perva has stepped up and worked his magic. So and this is not restricted, as opposed to the city of Tacoma that gets water. The, EFN water is not restricted. So any of you shelter managers, outreach workers, people with staff that interact with those who are in need, the Lehigh Aspen Court on Hosmer has a pallet of cases of Propel water. Okay. The other good news is that Rob Huff married really well and has his wife working at Habitat for Humanity, and they have water. It's flavored water, but it's still water. And there are approximately 2 cases there. Rob and my husband on Monday morning are going to break out 2 pallets possibly of water, which will be split between the Lehigh Tiny Village on South 69th and Proctor and Lehigh Aspen Court on Hosmer. So starting Monday afternoon, if you want water, and Dion Jacobson with St. Vincent de Paul, if you've not gotten water lately, do you want to message me privately and we'll have the guys deliver water to St. Vincent de Paul, because St. Vincent de Paul on South 56 has provided water. But this is water that actually should be used sooner rather than later. So St. Vincent de Paul, let me know if you want water taken there as opposed to it just going to 2 sites. And any other shelter site or any other manager, if you want water delivered on Monday, let me know or let Rob know. Otherwise, it's going to be split between the 2 Lehigh sites. If you forget about where those addresses are, you can go to our coalition website, go up to find the listing of shelters, and the addresses there. So we're talking Aspen Court and 69th and Proctor. Any questions?
Not seeing anything right now. All right, thanks for that update, Jan. And let's see what else we have on our agenda. So we also wanted to provide some time for Rosemary to talk about representation in the coalition committee updates.
Okay, I hope I'll try to do this quickly because our time is getting short. But I just wanted to present some ideas that have come through the governance work group and the steering committee about how we operate as a coalition. And for those of you who've been around for a long time, you'll remember the merger between the Friday Providers Group and the long-standing Tacoma Pierce County Coalition to End Homelessness. And the coalition was newly energized and has morphed over the past few years. And we really have, as a group of 60 or more people now who meet every week, individuals, members of nonprofit organizations, government agencies, faith communities, community businesses. We're all working together with this goal to end homelessness. We, as our description describes, we're a network, but sometimes we want to act as if we're an organization. And so the question arises, who represents the coalition? Who speaks for the coalition? How do I get others in the coalition to work on this strategy? I think is really important. What does it mean to be a coalition project? What is the coalition's view on X? So those are questions that organizations may have processes for answering, and ours are much more loosely organized. So we thought through the question of representation over a year ago, year and a half and maybe, and we had a process by which we could appoint people to represent us to outside groups. Unfortunately, because we are a loose coalition in that sense, we didn't have very good expectations of what people were going to represent when they went to such groups. So last March, we suspended that process of appointing someone, at least unless we all agreed to do it, and thought we better think about it for a while. So we thought it was at least important to have a clear statement of our mission. We have a lot more to work on, but we agreed on that a couple of weeks ago. And Rob, if I could share the screen, I would put up the mission and then the accompanying statement that I want to briefly mention.
Sure, let me do that right now. You have that ability now.
Okay. Let's see. All right, so I can move around here. The mission we approved is that we connect and mobilize people to take action to end homelessness. Straight and to the point, our other groups have other ways that they work to end homelessness. We have said that we want to connect people to each other and mobilize people to take action. Now, so that's our mission, but a couple weeks ago, we thought, well, we need to think more about what does it mean to act in the name of the coalition or in our own names. And so we struggled through it, and the statement that we're proposing that you think about over this week, and we would address it as something to vote on next week, is to say that the coalition welcomes diverse perspectives and actions. Participants act as individuals and groups and may invite others to join them. We speak with one voice when positions and actions are affirmed through a majority vote at a weekly coalition meeting. So I want to just take each sentence very briefly so you know what was behind the reason it came out the way it did. That we welcome diverse perspectives and actions. This is the idea that we recognize that there are people who want to do direct action, people who really like to be a thorn in the side of organized things because they need to have a thorn in their side. Other people who want to do education, some people who are really service providers at their heart, and that's where they want to put their energy. So we're not suggesting that everybody do the same thing. We're saying we welcome diverse perspectives and actions. Participants act as individuals and groups. That's the second point. We act individually. We act as the members of groups we organize, how would I say it? Ad hoc groups that organize for a brief time, or groups that have become like the Safe Parking Net group that's become a real force within the coalition. And we may invite others to join us. That's the idea, that we don't have to do all of the actions we want on our own. If we want to camp outside some kind of official's spot and we want to do a direct action, we could invite anybody in the coalition to join us. That wouldn't be a coalition action. That would be an action in support of ending homelessness. So we speak with one voice when positions and actions are affirmed through a majority vote at a weekly coalition meeting. That is the place where we need to keep better track of these, but that is the place where we could say the coalition has this as its policy. The coalition has this as its priority. When we've done that in a meeting. Otherwise, I would say, for example, for myself, just to think through this as you think about it this week, I work with New Connections, and our primary mission is to disrupt the poverty to prison pipeline and assisting women getting out of incarceration. As part of that, I have participated in a project called 99 Stockings that happens every December as a way to help homeless people, whether they're formerly incarcerated or not, to have something that they might need around the time of the holiday. This is not a coalition project, but this is a project I'm inspired to participate in because I'm in the coalition and care about the people that we are all trying to walk together with down this path to a better place. So the 99 Stockings position project is advertised through the coalition. Everybody in the coalition can join and help. It's part of our network. So trying to just distinguish, and that's what this statement is trying to do, distinguish between the actions we want to promote of all kinds of creative ideas and activities, and some things that we think either as a strategic or policy or even sometimes an emergency method that we want to come together at one of our Friday meetings and saying, yes, this is what we support. So that's the pitch. That next week we would present this again. And if any of you have ideas or questions or suggestions, we'll meet as a steering committee to address any of those if they come up this week. So you'll have a chance if there's something you think should be added or is not clear enough, that we want to be sure that it's something that we can then have a majority of us support next week. So I will stop there.
Thank you, Rosemary. And thanks to the folks who worked on this as well. We'll come back to this next week, but if you do have questions or comments, I see a few folks have shared those in the chat, and please feel free to let us know in the chat so we can make any adjustments before next week.
I'll also put it in the chat, that statement, so it's there for people who want to get it.
Perfect. So we have just enough time for just general good trouble announcements for the group. And I do want to make sure that everybody is aware, this is listed on the pchomeless.org website, that this weekend on the 10th at 5 p.m., Ed Jacobs is going to hold a homeless memorial service at Shiloh Baptist Church. That's at 12th, South 12th and I Street. And it's a memorial to honor and remember those who were experiencing homelessness when they passed away recently. And I believe what Ed has shared with us is that it's more than 30 individuals over the last couple of months who have passed away while living on the streets. So everyone is encouraged to attend that. It is an in-person event. Garrett, you have your hand up.
At the risk of talking too much, I put a link into the chat for a litter summit that's coming up in the middle of July. Sorry for the short notice. This is looking at litter from vehicles, illegal dumping, and trash created in encampments. So there's a whole session for speakers talking about kind of different approaches to encampment litter, and including Harold Odom, who's heavily involved with the Lived Experience Coalition. So talk a little bit about personal experience. Anyway, it's free, registration's there. And yeah, let me know any questions.
Thanks, Garrett. Anyone else with announcements? Courtney.
Yes, I wanted to let everybody know that after 16 months of being unhoused, I signed a lease on Tuesday. I am no longer unhoused. Still floating this week and next probably, but not unhoused. And I am going to be on the corner of 23rd, South 23rd and M Street, right around the corner from Rise and so many other places that good trouble is about to be happening a lot.
That is fantastic news. And anyone else with good trouble announcements? Patricia.
I'm just going to make the comment, Garrett. Harold Odom is a big advocate, but he has transitioned from the Lived Experience Coalition into King County Regional Homeless Authority. Thank you.
Yes, his employment transition, but he's a member of the LEC.
Great. All right, so it looks like it is 10:59. I do want to offer the opportunity, if folks do have reflections on today's meeting and suggestions for things that we could do better, what didn't work and what should we include in next week's meeting. I always want to hear those, so please drop them in the chat. You can feel free to send them just to me in the chat if you want. And I think this is the perfect way to end it on Courtney's good news. That's our success story for the day. So that's fantastic. I hope everybody has a good, safe weekend, and that we see you all again next week. And if you have an interest in helping us plan the upcoming meetings, we will hold a short planning meeting directly after this, after about a 5-minute break. So thanks, everybody.